Today I'm going to teach you how to make chicken broth and chicken puree. So for this recipe you will need 1 whole chicken, some filtered water, a large stock pot, and some apple cider vinegar. Okay, so what we will do is unwrap the chicken, put it in the stock pot, cover it with some filtered water, probably do about that much over the top of the chicken. Then add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, it has to be apple cider vinegar, for each litre of water. So once you've covered the chicken with water and you've added your vinegar, place your stock pot onto the stove. Turn the heat on high for the first little bit. That will just get the water boiling really quickly. As soon as the water starts bubbling, you can turn it back down to about 3. This is one I've cooked earlier. It's been cooking for about 20 minutes, half an hour. You won't need to take that off until the chicken meat is falling off the bones. Not only will this give your broth more nutrients and flavour, but it will also make sure that the chicken meat is the right texture for your baby food. So we'll let that cook and we'll come back and check that later. Okay, so this chicken is cooked for a total of about an hour and a half. Meat is now falling off the bones, as you can see. So I'm going to turn the stove off. You can let it sit for a little while until it stops bubbling, and then remove the chicken and put it on a plate. So once that's cooled down, I'll take the chicken out. It can be a little bit difficult to remove the chicken as it breaks apart because it's been cooked for so long. So I just like to take it out in pieces until it's all sitting on the plate. If any meat is floating around in there, don't worry, we'll get it out later. But yeah, so just remove the chicken as best you can and sit it on the plate. So now we're going to strain the broth. So I've got the chicken out now, there's only broth left. So we're going to strain the broth so there's no chunky bits or pieces of gristle or bone. And I'll strain it into this jug. So from the jug, I poured the broth into some freezer-safe containers. I'm just letting them cool before I put them in the freezer. It's best to let anything hot cool for 20 minutes before you refrigerate or freeze. I'm thinking of freezing this little lot into ice cubes, so I have some available in small batches, and this I'll use for my next lot of vegetable puree. So I'm just going to leave the chicken to cool for about 10 minutes until it's hot enough to handle. And then I'll break it up and I'll show you how to make chicken puree. So there's your finished chicken broth. Now we're going to make chicken puree. For chicken puree, you will need the cooked chicken meat, a blender. I am using my stick blender because my jug blender tends to get stuck. An air pocket forms and then it doesn't quite blend up the chicken meat properly. So this one I can move around by myself. And because I'm using my stick blender, I'm going to blend it in a jug. This has a more confined space and will blend things up a little bit more. You'll also need some chicken broth just to get the puree to your consistency. So for a thicker puree, use less broth. For a thinner puree, use more. Okay, so now I'm going to blend the chicken meat and a little bit of chicken broth I put in there to make chicken puree. So you probably need to mix around the mixture a little bit just to get it all blended. Now it's all blended together. And the consistency is quite thick. So once it's all blended, I usually put them in freezer trays in small baby portion sizes. So I just spoon the mixture into there and then whack them in the freezer. As you can see, I've got other baby food there. Once they're frozen, they'll look like this. So you can either whack that on the stove, or I put it in a little container like this. This is some of his other baby food from earlier. I just let it defrost and then I heat it up in some hot water. But yeah, so now you have chicken broth and chicken puree. Happy cooking!